and didn't know about this case about these women? I mean, it is inconceivable that he was not aware of it. So the government of India apparently actively hid the facts from the nation for whatever reasons. And the facts, unfortunately for them, truth always has an uncanny way of surfacing. It surfaced. Now, when it surfaced, the Supreme Court certainly galvanizes itself and seeks to take suo motu cognizance. But I feel that this is a grossest violations of human rights against the minority community, because there is no doubt that besides the fact that large number of people have died, many cases of rapes have taken place. Over 600 churches, I believe, have been burned down. Schools have been burned down belonging to the Kuki community. So I think, it was something where court should have stepped in and provided a healing touch much earlier by appointing independent, strong observers like retired, respected Chief Justice like Chief Justice Lodha or Justice Thakur or somebody, and a whole, group of experts, police and bureaucratic experts, to really go there, find out what the truth was.
Right.
Because one thing is very clear, that the government did not want truth to come out of Manipur.
Okay,
and that is, I think, the government has done great disservice to the nation, but the Supreme Court, I don't think, has lived up to the expectations out of them.
Okay, so you're saying too little too late. Just a factual check. As per official records, about 230 churches and over about 20 temples have at various levels, small and big, been attacked when the violence took place in Manipur. But Aryama Sundaram, the question before the court is, how far can the court go in taking over the role of executive? Law and order is for the state to handle. It's for the police and perhaps now for the CBI. But many of the lawyers arguing in court said, we have no faith in the CBI. They want a court-monitored SIT probe with retired DGPs. Do you believe that this lack of faith in the executive is telling in the times we live? Or is the court, perhaps by conducting a probe, essentially going to send a message that they have no faith in the executive?
Rajdeep, let's understand this is a very delicate situation. And I'm saying delicate because while I agree with my good friend Dushyant that this is absolutely heinous, what has happened is very extreme, I also have to temper myself with reminding myself that after all, we are a democracy as a country, and the basis of a democracy is what we call the separation of powers, where one wing of the state does not interfere with another wing of the state in the normal course of things. This is definitely a matter for the executive to take care of. It's definitely a law and order situation. Even worse, it's getting to a public order situation. This is something the executive has obviously failed to handle in the way they should have. And the separation of powers dictates a certain cautious approach by the courts before stepping into what is the executive's sphere of responsibility.
No, but when the executive fails,
now when does the court come in?
Should the court step in when the executive fails?
Exactly. I'm answering you. Yes, that's the point I'm making. Under the Indian Constitution, unlike constitutions of many other countries, the Indian Supreme Court has enormous powers to step into issues such as this when circumstances warrant it. And definitely the court has found the circumstances warrant it. Dushyant says too little too late. But my point is that a cautious approach of when to step in by the court is definitely required in a democracy and where there's separation of powers. That the court has to step in when the executive absolutely fails in its functions, affecting human rights of citizens. The court has to step in.
Sir, but 140, with due regard, 140 people have, sir, when 140 people have died, more than 1,000,
feel it's too
sure,
soon.
But when 140 people have died, thousands have been displaced, there is an element of ethnic divide of a kind that is rarely seen. Kukis in one part, Meiteis in one part. I mean, all of that is deeply troubling. So are you saying that the court should not have a court-monitored probe of these incidents?
That's why I think a time has come when the court will seriously have to consider having a court-monitored probe. But this is an issue which is partly political, greatly social, hugely legal, It involves all. Now, the executive fails, the court steps in when human rights are involved. This is not a policy matter where courts don't step in. Human rights get involved, court does step in. Unless the executive can satisfy the court that it is going to earnestly and will capably deal with the situation, I believe the court will have to step in, like they had to step in very often in the past, and put up sits and special investigation teams to deal with the matter.
But
if you ask me, has the time now come for the court to come into it? Yes, the time has now come. And like I said, there's never a right time.
Okay.
Some will say it's too early, some will say it's too late. It's always a situation when you have a separation of powers.
Okay.
But at this juncture, so let's talk of the present and the future, immediate future. What's to be done? I think the court has taken session of it. And I'm slightly more optimistic than Dushyant when I say that I do believe that something is going to turn around now.
Can I ask you, Mr. Dave, there will be those, and this was argued by one of the lawyers in court, saying court must look at also what's happening in West Bengal. Courts must also look at, instances of rape that take place in other states. Now, you could even turn the clock back to other instances of mass violence. Forget, what's happened in Manipur. Look at what happened over the years. How far can the court go? This whataboutery. The Chief Justice made it very clear, you cannot compare one instance with the other. But do you believe that because this is politically so fraught, therefore the court willy-nilly will get caught in a political argument now? The BJP will say, why don't you go into Bengal?
Well, let me say one thing very clearly. Nobody can condone violence of any kind in any state. And I have no doubt that the law and order machinery is taking care of the situation in the states that they are complaining about. But it's now become a fashion on the part of the Bharatiya Janata Party that as and when it fails to really help the people who need their help and allows this violence to perpetrate, and there is no doubt in my mind that the violence in Manipur has taken place not just because the government failed, but because the government of Manipur wanted to fail. Let's be very clear about it. I mean, here is a prime minister who has not said a word about Manipur violence while he sheds tears for his cheetahs and tigers, from time to time. It's really sad to see the prime minister keeping this kind of a silence on an issue which is really very, very serious, because here is a group of minorities, the Christians, who are being targeted.
No, Meiteis have also, let me correct you, sir. Meiteis have also suffered. Both communities have suffered. My point is, when you make a statement like that.
Don't interrupt, Rajdeep.
Okay.
I am also aware that Meiteis have suffered. But there is no doubt that the Christians have suffered much more. And it is now a pattern in this country that the minorities are suffering much more. Yes, in the process, some majority community people will suffer. But minorities are being targeted across the states. And therefore, it is the duty of the Supreme Court. My good friend, Mr. Aryama Sundaram, in one hand says that police failed, executive failed, but Supreme Court should not step in. Then again, he says time has come, Supreme Court should step in. I feel Supreme Court should have stepped in the day it was moved, because government of Manipur and central government were looking the other way.
But is it a political minefield? Dushyant Dave, if the court steps in, are they stepping into a political minefield?
No, not at all. Court is a custodian of the fundamental rights. Right to life is most important of the valued and cherished human rights under the Constitution. And if that right is being violated in such a systematic manner, we have seen, Rajdeep, this happening in 1984 in Delhi and other places. We have seen it happen in Gujarat in 2002. We are seeing this again in Manipur. I mean, it is every time court has failed. In 84, it didn't step in. In 2002, it stepped in too late. And now again in Manipur, it is stepping in with, very cautious approach. I don't understand why caution. People have died. People are being raped. Their properties are destroyed. Communities are divided. Court should have put the healing touch much earlier by bringing in best people to really stop the violence. You have to take action against the police. Suspend them, all the officers. Suspend the bureaucrats who are responsible. And pass strictures against the state government.
So you don't see that as court taking over executive powers. If court starts suspending police officers, is that taking over executive powers?
Not at all. I will give you a classic example. When Allahabad High Court was attacked by the some policemen way back, and police was not able to protect the judges and lawyers. Chief Justice Venkat Chalaya issued directions that army should enter Allahabad High Court and protect, and CRPF should enter, and others, and they entered within a matter of 2 hours. So when it comes to them, the judges are very, very clear that yes, we must use powers to stop violence. When it comes to innocent citizens, the judges are extremely slow and thinking for months together as to what is to be done. I must say that I am deeply disappointed in Chief Justice Chandrachud and his colleagues. I think they have failed miserably. They failed the nation.
So you don't go by the strong observation that Justice Chandrachud has made both a couple of weeks ago and today. You say that's not enough. You say observations are not enough. You need action on the ground. The truth, of course, is that it required some of those observations for the government now to say they will pull the cases out of Manipur. They are ready to take even the gang rape case out of Manipur. Do you believe that in a way also Aryama Sundaram is possibly a solution? These cases cannot be prosecuted in Manipur. Some are suggesting they've got to be taken out to ensure fairness. What does that say about our system?
No, I don't think it's a simple case of fairness. Their point is these cases are incendiary. They are really flaring up. When the case goes on, there are going to be more and more emotions coming up. It's already a sensitive situation. Taking the case out is not casting any kind of aspersion on the justice delivery system in Manipur. It is to see to it that that this whole thing in the case going on doesn't flare up tensions which are already there. It is a wise thing to do. Certainly a wise thing to do in the given circumstances from that angle.
But do you think it's too late? But do you think that we will actually be able to prosecute effectively? We've seen in the past, in cases involving mass violence, the courts have often not been able to prosecute. I'll give you an example of Mumbai 92, where over 1,000 people died. Barely a dozen, 2 dozen people eventually were convicted. Is it too late? Should there be another? Is there another way?
Despite Justice Sri Krishna's report.
Justice Sri Krishna's report was thrown into the Arabian Sea sadly when the government changed. Yes, Mr. Sudram.
The fact is, Rajdeep, when on the one hand you're saying is it too late? I'm sorry, but I have to re-emphasize one aspect. Whether we like it or not, when you live in a democracy which goes strongly by separation of powers, there is a tendency that one could interfere into the realm of the others. If the legislature or the executive was to step into the judiciary's shoes, I know that people would be screaming and saying, how can the legislative or the executive step into the judiciary's shoes? The judiciary has to, whether you like it or not, by the system of separation of powers, allow the state to do its function. This judiciary should come in only when there's no other option. Now,
maybe that stage has been reached in Manipur.
Dave feels the judiciary should come in earlier. The fact is the judiciary cannot be a Don Quixote and in every matter come in as and when. Then you have an equal risk of it becoming a judicial dictatorship, which it cannot be. So the point is, it is a very difficult thing to time. I may agree with you that here the judiciary has stepped in a bit too late. Not too late to do anything, but a bit later than what they should have.
Okay.
But it's always a very, very difficult decision to take as to when to step in.
Okay,
and when to step into an area which it is really the executive function to do. What the judiciary tries to do then is to nudge, to push, to shove the executive to do its functions and do it fairly. And that is what you mean by court monitored.
Okay. One final word from you, Mr. Dave. Judicial dictatorship is one view that critics will have, but there will be others who will say that, look, when the executive is failing, when parliament cannot debate Manipur, when the prime minister remains silent on it, when the chief minister is accused of partisanship, the only way out is the court. Should we have more faith in the court than perhaps you have at the moment?
Look, I'll tell you a classic example. The 1992 judgment in, second judge's case. The Supreme Court, grabbed the power from the government to appoint judges in High Courts and Supreme Court, rewriting the Constitution. So it's not that Supreme Court doesn't take away the powers from the executive from time to time. They did it for good reason. Whether it has been successful or failure, that's a separate issue. Right. I feel under separation of power theory, if any one of the organs of the state fails to perform the constitutional duties imposed upon it. Because who protects the right to life? It's the executive. If the executive has failed to protect the lives of the citizens, then certainly some via media has to be found. Some solution has to be found.
So, a Supreme Court monitored probe, Supreme Court monitored probe in a fixed time, with a fixed time frame, with officers who are seen as credible, is the way forward. Am I correct?
And headed by a retired Chief Justice like Chief Justice Lodha or Justice Thakur, who are impeccable.
Okay.
You know, something like that. Otherwise, it's all mockery. What's happening? I mean, people are dying. What are you going to do? How will you give them 5 lakhs and 10 lakhs and forget about them? I mean, do you realize people who have lost their near and dear ones? What must be happening through their mind? Do you realize what will happen to the children of these women who have been publicly paraded and raped? And you are now confining the case to 5 people. The whole crowd was there. You should prosecute the entire crowd. I mean, what is happening to this country? Civility is dead. Humanity is dead. That people see this and don't even intervene to stop. I mean, we must learn something. We must bring humanity back into us, civility back into us. We must become a cultural nation.
So
we have become completely uncultured.
Okay, let me leave it there. Those are very strong words. Hopefully someone is listening. Remember, the court will continue with its hearings tomorrow and hopefully be passing an order on this case. Manipur remains our top focus. Aryama Sundaram, Dushyant Dave, always great to have two articulate lawyers joining us on our face-off here. Let's turn from there to an exclusive that we have with an MLA who's really now, in a way, put the chicken in the situation in Manipur, the cat among the pigeons rather, as the centre begins the process for talks with Meitei and Kuki Zo communities. Kuki BJP MLA Paulonel Haukip has now called for the bifurcation of the state, while the Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has categorically rejected any such proposal. The BJP MLA now has gone on record saying it's the only way forward in order to restore peace and tranquility in the state. Let's go straight across to Mr. Haukip. The BJP MLA, a Kuki himself, joins me. Mr. Haukip, you have now questioned the way the centre and state have handled the Manipur violence. Are you saying that you don't see the Meitei and Kuki people being able to come together and live together with a healing touch? Are you saying that that is simply not possible anymore?
Well, Rajdeep, thank you for having me. And as I always say, the healing touch would be to recognize the separation and to let allow the two communities live with mutual dignity and mutual respect. Forcing, people together in a bad marriage would not be the right approach at this point.
Now, are you saying, when you say separate state, are you calling for a separate administration for a Kuki community within Manipur? Will this not essentially, are you calling for the breakup of Manipur?
Rajdeep, you cannot want the territory and not want the people, So, if you don't want the people, you have no right to claim that the territorial integrity of the state should be preserved. It is only when you show love and justice and the right attitude as leader of the government that you have the moral authority to say such things. Mr. Biren has lost that moral authority.
You're saying Biren Singh has lost the moral authority? And that the Chief Minister, are you calling for the Chief Minister to step down? Are you saying he is part of the problem, not the solution, when you say Biren Singh has lost the moral authority?
Whether he steps down or not is not a concern anymore. If he wants to remain as the Chief Minister, let him be the Chief Minister of that part of the state where he still enjoys support. But for the Kuki Jo community, we are aspiring and we are seeking of the central government to recognize the segregation, the separation in the form of a political administrative arrangement, which will not involve Mr. Biren Singh or the government of Manipur no more.
Have you tried, though, Mr. Haukip, to raise this demand that you have for separate statehood? Have you met the Prime Minister and the Home Minister? Because You are a BJP MLA. The Prime Minister has been silent. The Home Minister was in Manipur for 3 days in May. Have you raised it with them as a BJP MLA that Kuki BJP MLAs now want a separate state?
Well, it is understandable because this is a big decision and the center would need some time. And I'm hopeful that the central government, the Union Home Minister, as well as the Honorable Prime Minister, would recognize the gravity of the situation, the human divide that has been affected under Biren Singh's leadership, and as citizens of India, would take care of the interest and the aspirations of the Kuki-Zo community also.
But sir, you are as a sitting MLA of Manipur of the ruling party calling for the breakup of your own state. I mean, isn't that a big statement to make? Are you saying today to me that Kuki and Meitei communities can't stay together? Both of them have suffered, sir.
No, Rajdeep, we have seen the creation of Telangana, we have seen the creation of Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh. There are less problems there than the one here in Manipur. Mm-hmm. And if under less demanding or less deserving circumstances, we can accommodate political aspirations of citizens, mm-hmm. I think it is only right that the government of India should seriously consider, because it is an existential crisis for the Kuki-Zo community. We are targeted mm-hmm. for annihilation. And you have seen on national television the open threat by the Meitei Lipun chief. Mm-hmm. It is that kind of arrogance, that kind of attitude that we choose not to live with anymore.
But sir, but there are also Meiteis who have helped Kukis in this time of need. As I said, both communities have been affected. I mean, surely there must be a way to start a dialogue between the two communities, between responsible citizens in civil society and the political leadership. Are you saying that's simply not possible anymore?
In a civil strife situation, there are bound to be casualties and sufferings on both sides. That is understandable. Mm-hmm. But the kind of narrative maligning the entire Kuki-Zo community, mm-hmm. based on trumped-up narratives of illegal immigration, of drug trafficking, mm-hmm. of forest encroachment, this kind of negative narrative is rooted in a certain kind of hatred. Mm-hmm. Now, if in your state, the majority community doesn't count you as people of the state, mm-hmm. which you are, then the only alternative, I think, is for the union government to intervene and recognize our aspiration for a separate administration under the Constitution of India so that we can live happily as citizens of India like any other citizen elsewhere.
But let's be clear, sir. Many of these targeting of Kukis, the allegation that you're saying the demonization of Kukis has been done at times by the Chief Minister himself. He has said this is a war against narco-terrorists. This is a war against infiltrators, Kuki chins who are coming from Myanmar. So let's be clear who's making these allegations. The fact is it's the Chief Minister of your own party. You're a BJP MLA who is saying that the Kukis themselves started this all.
He's been at the head of this hate campaign for quite some time, and his linkages with the radical militia societies or organizations like the Meitei Lipun mm-hmm. and the Arambai Tengal is well known to the country mm-hmm. by now. And so, but what I like to put here on record is, Rajdeep, a lot of politics is tried to be played by the opposition in parliament. Mm-hmm. Let's for once go beyond politics and see the existential threat that the Kuki-Zo people are facing today in Manipur. Mm-hmm. And what is so wrong in protecting a section of the citizens who are being threatened, who are being looked down upon, who are being, so hated that a lot of depravities have been committed on them. What is so wrong in giving them a separate administration under which they can happily live as Indian citizens and pursue their dreams of excellence?
You know, Mr. Haukip, you just said something significant. You say that you're saying the Chief Minister is complicit because you're saying that he has aligned himself with radical Meitei groups. You're going on record to say that as a BJP MLA. On the flip side, the Chief Minister's supporters are saying Kuki militant groups are also responsible for the violence. Are you going to say that Kuki militant groups were not involved at all? Houses of Meiteis were burnt in Churachandpur. The argument that is being made is that that's where the violence started.
The Kuki militant groups are in no way involved as far as the Solidarity March was concerned or anything prior to that. They have no involvement whatsoever. It was the old Tribal Students Union Manipur that had called for the Solidarity March against the High Court judgment. So it has nothing to do with militants. The current narrative of this trouble being a war against narco terrorists, as Mr. Biren calls it, is a narrative to justify the complicity of the state in the violence, nothing else.
You know, you're using again the word complicity of the state in the violence. I repeat, this is a state of which you are part of as a BJP MLA. Do you therefore believe, I come back to that, the removal of Mr. Biren Singh, whom in one way you're holding responsible, will solve the problem? As a BJP leader, are you calling for the removal of your own BJP Chief Minister?
Rajdeep, sometimes you have to go beyond the party line to look at the problem, because a party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which I have joined for its decisiveness, for its bold steps for the nation, cannot be appropriated by just Biren Singh and a few others. The party is not all about Biren Singh. I am as much a party member, but truth needs to be spoken within the party also. In fact, I had written to the state president before the troubles broke out, expressing my concerns about the way things are handled, the way things are being run by the chief minister. So within the party also, we have every right to air our differences of opinion. That is the spirit of democracy. Just because the chief minister does something, it doesn't mean that I, as a party MLA, would suit or blindly follow it. I don't believe in that kind.
But as I said, Mr. Haukip, you are talking today of a separate state within Manipur, or a separate state being a solution for Kukis. But, you know, will the Nagas agree to it? They want a greater Nagaland. You've had Naga-Kuki clashes in the past. Will the Meiteis, who have already made it very clear they will not accept the division of Manipur? Are you simply trying to put pressure on the center? And what happens if the demand that you are calling is not considered? Does the violence simply continue?
Exactly. The demand have been put across by the negotiating team, that is the SO groups that had been engaged with the central government in talks prior to the violence also, and now under a new framework, which is no longer trilateral but bilateral now. They have already put up the demands for separation from Manipur, and we look forward to the central government favorably looking into it and bringing permanent peace in the region, so that the region can also experience the benefits of Indian independence.
But with due regards, sir, tomorrow the Nagas will also then call for a separate state of Greater Nagaland. Groups in Assam will call for Bodoland. Other communities in Tripura, other northeastern states will ask for a separate state. It will open up a Pandora's box.
Even the Nagas have been wanting to separate from Manipur because, Rajdeep, if you look back at the political history of Manipur since even before statehood, the constitutional provisions protecting the rights of tribal have been systematically neglected.
Yes, but let me just ask you one last time. If the center doesn't agree to this, if this demand for a separate cookie state is not considered, are you going to resign from the BJP? Is that an ultimatum in a way that you're offering?
Well, in politics, nothing is off the table, Rajdeep, and we'll cross that bridge when we reach there because I cannot speak based on speculation. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of hope, and I'll stick to that hope for now.
Okay, so you have hope that the center will agree to your demand for a separate state. The Manipur Chief Minister has made it clear that's not on the table. A BJP MLA is now coming out and calling for a separate cookie state. Remember, he's one of 10 cookie MLAs who seem to be echoing that demand. Mr. Haukip, for coming and speaking so plainly, calling it a complicity of the state, I appreciate your joining us. You've set the cat among the pigeons. Let's take a break. When we return, we're turning to the story of what's been happening in a railway compartment that has gone horribly wrong. And courage and resilience of young children who fled from Manipur. We'll tell you that story on the other side. You're watching the news today. News without the noise.
Several villages in Turbang areas were burned in the ethnic clashes, the violence and all. I see only the footprints, everything that burned to these ashes. They blame for everything that is happening here to the cookie government.
We are only defending ourselves.
There is a literally line of this area towards the cookie side where you have a huge number of bunkers. No one could ever imagine that in a state, in the same country, in the same district, we will ever see such situation which has become a battlefield. And I could say this is a war zone in Manipur.
Grounded in journalism, on the ground reporting, only on India Today TV.
Welcome back. Let's turn for the other shocker that's coming in today. A railway protection force Jawan killed 4 people on a train from Jaipur to Mumbai. The victims included 3 passengers and an RPF assistant sub-inspector. The incident took place on the Jaipur Express. Some politicians are imputing a communal angle. Take a look.
They were a team on duty barely 24 hours ago. But in a horrific turn of events, one is dead and his subordinate, the killer. At 5:30 a.m. in B5 coach of Jaipur MMCT Express 12956, RPF Constable Chetan allegedly opened fire at his escort in charge, Tikaram, an assistant sub-inspector in Railway Protection Force. Chetan also shot dead 3 other civilians travelling in the Jaipur Express. 2 have been identified as Asghar Ali from Jaipur and Kader Bhanpurala from Nalasopara in Mumbai. The fourth victim is yet to be identified. Prelim probe states that the accused, Chetan, complained of mental harassment and was upset with ASI Tikaram.
Total 4 are dead. उसको मीरा रोड स्टेशन पे उसको डिटेन कर लिया गया।
सर इसने ऐसा क्यों किया? जी जी
ऑटोमेटिक वेपन है, उसको वेपन भी रिकवर किया है। फिलहाल कोई खतरे की बात नहीं है, उसको पकड़ा गया।
सर इसने ऐसा क्यों किया? इसके पीछे कुछ वजह?
इसकी मानसिक अवस्था ठीक नहीं थी, प्रिलिमिनरी यही इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है।
ओके ओके,
मेंटली डिस्टर्ब था, इस टाइप का इंफॉर्मेशन प्रिलिमिनरी उपलब्ध हुआ है।
Misfired bullet marks were seen on the door of the coach, where the horror unfolded. According to sources, RPF Constable Chetan started to fire on his senior Tikaram as the train passed from Palgad railway station. 3 other passengers were also hit. He used a modified version of AK-47 AKM assault rifle for the crime and fired at least 12 rounds. Chetan then tried to pull the chain to escape near the Hisar station. Train stopped at Meera Road station, where he was immediately taken into custody by Mumbai police. By the time the train reached Borivali, 4 dead bodies were retrieved by GRP and RPF. Postmortem will be done to ascertain further details of the incident.
ये अभी इसके कई सब अनकन्फर्म रिपोर्ट्स हैं। अभी इसके बारे में एग्जैक्टली जानकारी प्राप्त करके ही कंफर्म किया जाएगा। मानसिक रिपोर्ट, मानसिक वाली ऐसी कोई बात अभी नहीं।
A journey to safeguard passengers ended in a terrible tragedy of quadruple murders, leaving many questions unanswered. With Deepesh Tripathi and Divyesh Singh in Mumbai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Tragic story there. Well, as I said, we've been tracking passionately the story in Manipur for several weeks now. We've heard stories of despair, of people who've lost their loved ones. Tonight, I want to leave you with a story of courage and resilience, of the young children who fled from Manipur amidst the violence and are now finding some hope and support in Delhi schools. I can only hope that one day they grow up to be bright young Indian citizens and can provide the healing touch. Metes, cookies, we want them all to be Indians first. I leave you tonight with this story from Shreya, a heartwarming tale of strength and perseverance. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
From killing, gunfights, and arson in Manipur to the classroom in Delhi. These children have traversed a long distance in a very short period.
How did you guys make your journey?
It's like first we came at Gyanvapi in Imphal. Yeah, and then it's from there we were evacuated in the CRPF camp near Langol, and then from there we stayed like 1 week and 1 day, and then from there we came in Delhi.
This is such a lovely class. The government's initiative to admit students from Manipur in Delhi schools is a step in giving them a fresh start. But it is not an easy task for them. Even as these children attend classes here, they are worried about the safety of their loved ones in Manipur.
It was the entire journey.
It
was difficult, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was hard because I left my mom. I separated with my mom just to continue my study. It's been more than 5 months that I have 5 months that I haven't seen my mom and dad.
You will get better.
I just want to say that to bring peace and justice for us.
All this time we have to stay alert. If we didn't stay alert, our life will be gone. It's really hard Yeah. My father used to go in the border area to guard our land. And my mother is just staying at home.
Teachers at this government school in RK Puram have started a buddy program so that students from Manipur can easily mingle with others here.
Ma'am, her name is Hatmini and her is Kim Lan Chong and his name is Christopher and his name is Cam Koshe.
Okay, so you guys enjoying with everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
अच्छे से दोस्ती बन रही
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
है? क्या क्या सिखाया है?
कुछ वर्ड सिखाए हैं,
अभी एक कुछ बता के
जैसे थोड़ा थोड़ा
एक कुछ और बताने की कोशिश।
क्या करते हो?
कुछ नहीं करता।
ओह, सीख गए।
Kaki pae.
काकी
Pae.
काकी
Kaki pae.
That is, I am happy in Manipuri. Once again, loud.
Kaki pae. Kaki pae.
We have a wonderful set of teachers here who are guiding my students, and the new students who have come in are I hope, adjusting quite well with my original students, the ones who are already studying in the school. And in the 11th class, we have this buddy system where we have paired children with a new child, with an old student, so that they can sit together, eat together, study together, and play games together.
And the students are not giving up hope. If anything, the tragedy that struck Manipur has only made their resolve tough.
I want to be an army.
You want to be in the army?
Yeah.
Why do you want to be in the army?
It's like because so every one of us are going to die one day. Like that's obviously going to happen. But I chose it because at least I can die like for our country or maybe help someone else.
You want to die for your country?
Yeah.
With this message of diversity, where people from Manipur, where students from Manipur are finding solace in a school in the national capital of the country, we only hope that such programs, such messages be extended for the people of Manipur who are going through an extremely disturbing time. And as one of the students said, that they are finally happy that they were able to come from the state of Manipur, even if their parents are still there, they're happy that they are now meeting new friends and finding peace in the national capital. With video journalist Deepak Bisht, this is Shreya Chatterjee for India Today.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 39 and minimum 28 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 29 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 36 and minimum 27 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 28 and minimum 21 degrees. Chennai, maximum 36 and minimum 28 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 29 and minimum 23 degrees. Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 39 and minimum 28 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 29 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 36 and minimum 27 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 28 and minimum 21 degrees. Chennai, maximum 36 and minimum 28 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 29 and minimum 23 degrees.
Co-powered by the new Kia Seltos, the badass reborn. Extra safe polycab green wire.
Breaking news coming in here on India's first two Haryana home guard jawans have been shot dead in the violence that started during a Vishwa Hindu Parishad procession earlier this evening in the afternoon, actually, in the new area of Haryana. This is not very far from the national capital. In fact, the new area is the Mewat region of Haryana, just on the outskirts of Delhi, where an extended standoff took place. There were communal clashes, a huge amount of damage, and we can confirm now that 2 Home Guard jawans have been killed. At least 10 10 police personnel have been injured. They've been removed from there. There was a standoff situation for at least 3 hours in which multiple buses, vans, police cars and other vehicles were torched. There was a huge amount of fire and smoke that was visible from quite a distance. There was a lot of stone pelting. Cars have been set ablaze. Now, this was a minority-dominated area where this particular procession was taking place. This was a Shobha Yatra of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, where violence broke out, and it took a long time before things were brought under control. There was a situation where hundreds of people were reportedly stranded inside a temple as well because of the raging violence that was taking place. But the breaking news that we're getting to you right now is that 2 Haryana Home Guard jawans have died in the crossfire. We're not sure of precisely how they died. Was it in stone pelting? Was it in firing? But this is a major escalation in the situation as we speak. We're joined now by India Today's Sushant Mehra as well as Arvind Ojha for more on this. Sushant, coming to you first. What's the latest? What is the situation right now? Are things under control right now, or are they still tense?
हरियाणा के मेवात में भगवा यात्रा पर हुए हमले के बाद 2 गुटों में हिंसा जो है जिस तरीके से भड़की है, उसकी आग अब धीरे धीरे सोहना तक पहुंच गई है। इस वक्त हम मौजूद है गुरुग्राम के सोहना में। आपको तस्वीरें दिखा दें कि सोहना की तरफ जाने वाले रास्ते को फिलहाल पुलिस की तरफ से बैरिकेड बंद करके रोक दिया गया है। तमाम गाड़ियों को वापस जाने की हिदायत जो है वो दी जा रही है। पुलिस का कड़ा बंदोबस्त जो है वो किया गया है कि यहाँ से अगर आप आगे जाते हैं तो जान का खतरा जो है वो बन सकता है, क्योंकि काफी ज्यादा यहाँ पर अगर कहा जाए तो मॉब इकट्ठा है, हिंसा घटनाएं हो रही हैं। फिलहाल वहां पर जाने की इजाजत जो है वो फिलहाल पुलिस की तरफ से नहीं दी जा रही है। सिर्फ पुलिसकर्मी जो हैं उन्हीं को जाने की इजाजत जो है वो दी जा रही है। आप देख सकते हैं कि तमाम ये गाड़ियां हैं जो कि आगे की तरफ जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, जिनके घर हैं उनको फिलहाल यहाँ से डाइवर्ट जो है वो फिलहाल ट्रैफिक पुलिस की तरफ से किया जा रहा है। यहाँ से तकरीबन अगर कहा जाए तो आधा किलोमीटर की दूरी पर पुलिस के आला अधिकारी खुद मौके पर हैं, पूरी स्थिति का जायजा ले रहे हैं कि क्या कुछ वहां पर परिस्थितियां हैं। अभी आप देख सकते हैं कि ये पुलिस की गाड़ी है, फिलहाल इन्हीं को जाने की इजाजत जो है वो फिलहाल यहाँ पर दी जा रही है।
By both Sushant Mehra as well as Arvind Ojha, who heads our crime team and is looking into the after effects of what was a major spike in violence, bad enough that 2 jawans from the Haryana Home Guard have been killed in the clashes. अरविंद, अभी माहौल कैसा है वहां पर? क्या कंट्रोल में आ गया है सिचुएशन?
नहीं, बिल्कुल देखिए, सिचुएशन फिलहाल पुलिस के लोग ये जरूर दावा कर रहे हैं कि सिचुएशन कंट्रोल में है, लेकिन जो सोर्सेज हैं वो बताते हैं कि फिलहाल चाहे गुरुग्राम का सोहना हो या फिर मेवात का जो इलाका है, वो अभी वहां पर सिचुएशन काफी ज्यादा खराब है। और एक सैड न्यूज भी आई है, अनफॉर्चुनेट है। गुरुग्राम के कमिश्नर ने इंडिया टुडे को बताया है कि जो मेवात में आज हिंसा हुई है, जो राइटिंग हुई है, उसमें 2 होम गार्ड्स उनकी मौत हो गई है, जबकि 10 से ज्यादा जो पुलिस पर्सनल है वो काफी ज्यादा इंजर्ड है। तो ये एक सैड न्यूज आई है, लेकिन इसके साथ ही शिव, आप अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं कि अगर जो पुलिसकर्मी है वो उनमें से 2 की मौत हो जाती है, होमगार्ड्स की, और पुलिसकर्मी इतने इंजर्ड हैं, तो फिर वहां की स्थिति क्या होगी? वहां जो यात्रा में लोग थे या फिर जो सिविलियंस थे या एक दूसरे को मरने मारने पर जो उतारू थे, उनकी क्या स्थिति होगी? काफी डिस्टर्बिंग विजुअल्स का जो पिक्चर्स हैं वो मेवात से आज देखने को मिले हैं। कई गाड़ियों को आग के हवाले किया गया है, काफी ज्यादा स्टोन पेल्टिंग हुई है, फायरिंग हुई है। और फायरिंग पुलिस की तरफ से तो हवाई फायरिंग हुई थी भीड़ को हटाने के लिए, लेकिन जो सोर्सेज है, जो तस्वीरें आई हैं, उसमें ये बताया गया है कि आम लोग भी फायरिंग कर रहे थे। तो अभी जो लेटेस्ट अपडेट आई है, गुरुग्राम कमिश्नर ने जो इंडिया टुडे को बताया है कि जो मेवात में पूरी हिंसा हुई है दिन भर, उसमें 2 होम गार्ड्स उनकी मौत हुई है, जबकि 10 से ज्यादा जो पुलिसकर्मी है वो इंजर्ड है, बैडली इंजर्ड है। फिलहाल वहां पर अब एक्स्ट्रा जो पुलिस फोर्स है वो डिप्लॉय की गई है। जो लोग शोभा यात्रा में थे और फंस चुके थे, शिव आपको बताऊं, जब ये दंगा हुआ तो कई जगह पर फंस चुके थे, उनको अब धीरे धीरे करके प्राइवेट बस से रेस्क्यू कराया जा रहा है, उनको उनके घर भेजा जा रहा है। कितना नुकसान हुआ है इसकी जानकारी आज लेट नाइट तक आएगी, लेकिन जो हालात है वो बहुत ज्यादा मेवात में फिलहाल खराब है।
अरविंद, हमारे साथ बने रहिए। सुशांत मेहरा is also live with me from the Sona area, which is also apparently affected. Sushant, 2 home guards killed, hundreds of people, living in fear at this point of time. What is the current situation? The Haryana government has appealed for peace, and they've said that things are under control right now, but there must still be a lot of tension in the air. What is the current situation?
देखिए शिव, जिस तरीके से हरियाणा पुलिस की तरफ से बयान जारी करके ये कहा गया है कि किसी भी तरीके की अफवाहों पर ध्यान ना दे। मेरी मौजूदगी सोना रोड के उस चौक पर है जहां से आगे जाने की इजाजत जो है वो फिलहाल हरियाणा पुलिस की तरफ से किसी को भी नहीं दी जा रही है। आप देख सकते हैं कि बाकायदा यहाँ पर बैरिकेड्स जो है वो कर दिए गए हैं। ट्रैफिक पुलिस यहाँ पर मौजूद है, हरियाणा पुलिस यहाँ पर मौजूद है। यहाँ से आगे जाने की इजाजत, किसी भी ट्रैफिक मूवमेंट को फिलहाल जो है वो बंद कर दी गई है। यहाँ से तकरीबन आधा किलोमीटर की दूरी पर अंबेडकर चौक है जहाँ पर हिंसाएं घटनाएं हो रही है। सिचुएशन काफी ज्यादा टेंस है और ऐसे में जो लोग यहाँ पर रहते हैं उनको फिलहाल जो है वो यहाँ पर डाइवर्ट किया गया है। जो पैदल आसपास के कॉलोनियों में रहते हैं उनको ही जाने की इजाजत जो है वो दी जा रही है, लेकिन अकेले जाने की इजाजत जो है वो नहीं दी गई है। और इसके अलावा मैं आपको बता दूं कि यहाँ से तकरीबन आधा किलोमीटर पे जो अंबेडकर चौक है वहाँ पर स्थिति आप देख सकते हैं कि पुलिस के तमाम आला अधिकारी जो है लगातार यहाँ पर गश्त कर रहे हैं। उन्हीं को पूरी गाड़ी चेक करने के बाद ही आगे जाने की इजाजत जो है वो दी जा रही है। अब से थोड़ी देर पहले काफी बड़ी संख्या में पुलिस बल को जो है वो यहाँ पर आगे की तरफ जाने की इजाजत दी गई थी। मीडिया कर्मियों को भी फिलहाल जो है वो यहाँ पर रोक दिया गया है कि इससे आगे आप नहीं जाइए, क्योंकि सिचुएशन जो है वो काफी ज्यादा वर्स्ट है। लोग काफी ज्यादा फंसे हुए हैं, उनको निकालने की कोशिश काफी संख्या में जो पुलिस बल है, पुलिस के आलाधिकारी हैं, बैक टू बैक इस पूरे इलाके का मुआयना कर रहे हैं। क्योंकि ये जो पूरा रूट है अगर आप समझेंगे तो यहीं से नू और मेवात के लिए रास्ता जो है वो जाता है और ऐसे में इस पूरे रूट पर काफी ज्यादा हिंसा घटनाएं जो है वो हुई हैं और लगातार जारी है। और ऐसे में अगर आगे की तरफ जाते हैं तो खतरा काफी ज्यादा जो है वो बड़ा हुआ और इसी को कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश जो है वो पुलिस की तरफ से की जा रही है। 2 पुलिसकर्मियों की
Arvind Ojha's teams will be tracking this story overnight because things are still extremely tense. Continues to be a priority story for us here on India Today. Overnight, we'll be getting you the latest updates right here on India Today.
Amid the ongoing legal dispute over the Gyanvapi complex in Varanasi, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has called it a historical mistake and that calling Gyanvapi a mosque would spark a dispute. He also asked the Muslim side to step forward to find a solution to this issue. Here's a detailed report.
देखिए, अगर हम उसको मस्जिद कहेंगे तो फिर विवाद होगा. हमें ज्ञानवापी बोल देना चाहिए.
The Gyanvapi is not a mosque, declares Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. A statement that raises the stakes in the Kashi Vishwanath dispute now being heard by the courts.
ये प्रस्ताव मुस्लिम समाज की तरफ से आना चाहिए.
क्या ज्ञानवापी मस्जिद को लेकर प्रॉब्लम का कोई सोल्यूशन है?
देखिए, अगर हम उसको मस्जिद कहेंगे तो फिर विवाद होगा. हमें ज्ञानवापी बोल देना चाहिए. मुझे लगता है कि भगवान ने जिसको दृष्टि दी है वो देखे ना, त्रिशूल मस्जिद के अंदर क्या कर रहा है. ज्योतिर्लिंग हैं, देव प्रतिमाएं हैं.
The Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister, speaking to a news agency, called the mosque a historical mistake that needs correction.
हमने तो नहीं रखे ना, ज्योतिर्लिंग हैं. और मुझे लगता है कि ये प्रस्ताव मुस्लिम समाज की तरफ से आना चाहिए कि साहब ऐतिहासिक गलती हुई है और उस गलती के लिए हम चाहते हैं समाधान हो.
Chief Minister Adityanath's statement comes ahead of the Allahabad High Court's verdict on ASI survey at the Gyanvapi complex expected on August 3rd. The Muslim petitioner who has challenged a lower court order allowing the survey said that no statements should be made outside the court.
मेरा ये मानना है कि जब कोई मामला सब जुडिशियल हो तो उस पर कोर्ट के बाहर किसी भी तरीके की बयानबाजी नहीं होनी चाहिए. कोर्ट के बाहर गुफ्तगू करने का ही ये नतीजा रहा कि मुल्क में बड़े पैमाने पर हिंदू मुसलमानों के दरमियान टेंशन बढ़ी है.
The Hindu petitioner welcomed Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath's statement.
सत्य को स्वीकार करना या किसी से कहना कि सत्य को स्वीकार कर लीजिए, तो गलती क्या है? ये तो मुस्लिम पक्ष को उन्होंने जगाया है कि आप सो रहे हो. आप देखो इतिहास क्या है.
The opposition has trained their guns on the Chief Minister.
देखिए, ये इसको कहते हैं मुख्यमंत्री इस बात को जानते हैं कि इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट में एएसआई सर्वे के बारे में मुस्लिम पक्ष ने उसकी मुखालिफत की है. वो आजकल में हाई कोर्ट जजमेंट देने वाली है. आप मुख्यमंत्री है, कानून को फॉलो करिए. आप कानून को फॉलो नहीं करना चाह रहे, वो मुसलमानों पर प्रेशर डालना चाह रहे, दबाव डालना चाह रहे हैं.
देखिए, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल हाईएस्ट पोस्ट पे बैठे हुए किसी भी शख्स को इस तरह की गैर जिम्मेदाराना बात नहीं करना चाहिए. जब कोई भी मामला अदालत में हो, कोर्ट में हो, तो चीफ मिनिस्टर को ऐसी भाषा करके ये बात समझ में आती है कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने योगी आदित्यनाथ जी को जो ध्रुवीकरण की कमान है वो उनको दे दी है.
अगर हम उसको मस्जिद कहेंगे तो फिर विवाद.
Should a chief minister have commented on a matter that is sub judice? Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath's reiteration that the Gyanvapi is not a mosque but a temple has raised questions of propriety.
ये प्रस्ताव मुस्लिम समाज की तरफ से आना चाहिए.
Bureau Report, India Today.
ऐसी गलती हुई है और उस गलती के लिए हम चाहते हैं समाधान हो.
Now, the legal battle has had twists and turns for many, many months now. Now, the archaeological survey of the mosque is on hold till the 3rd of August. The Muslim side has filed a petition in the Allahabad High Court, and there is a stay on that ASI survey until August the 2nd. So, August the 3rd is when the Allahabad High Court will then pick up that issue and pronounce on it. The petition was challenging the Varanasi Court's survey order to the Archaeological Survey of India. The Allahabad High Court has reserved its order in the matter and will make that verdict known on the 3rd of August. The judgment is to be delivered on that day, and depending on what the Allahabad High Court decides, it could either stop the survey or pave the way for that Archaeological Survey of India survey at the Gyanvapi complex. Vishnu Shankar Jain is live and exclusive with me here in the India Today studio. Vishnu ji, welcome. My first question to you, sir, is what do you make of Chief Minister Yogi's statement in this interview?
See, I feel and I believe that the facts of Gyanvapi are very, very glaring. And if someone in the society does not want to admit these glaring facts, for example, the Western Wall, for example, the Hindu Mandir Shikhars which are present beneath the 3 central domes, for example, the pillars which are there in the various parts of Gyanvapi which are Hindu mandir pillars. For example, there are various defaced idols. For example, there are various idols which are in broken and mutilated condition. For example, there are shloks of Sanskrit, Trishul, swastik, number of chins, shivling in the Vazu tank. If apart from these many facts, if someone says that it's a mosque, then I think this litigation we are fighting before the courts of law, and we will make all endeavors to prove before the court of law that this is not a mosque but this is an old temple structure.
You know, the comments made by Yogi Adityanath have been, they have in many ways been interpreted as overreach by a politician, since this issue is currently in court. Vishnuji, you've got the AIMIM, you've got the Samajwadi Party saying it's totally inappropriate for the Chief Minister to make such comments because he's in a position of power. What do you think?
See, let me just put this legal position before you very straight. And the legal position is that UP government is not having any formal role in the litigation or any very important role in the litigation. This is a list between Anjuman Intizamiya and Hindu devotees. So if UP government was playing an active role as a litigant, then ideally whatever is the allegation, I would have said that yes, that allegation is correct. And if UP government is litigating as a litigator in the case, then a Chief Minister or a head of the state shouldn't have made such a statement. But UP government is not a litigator in this matter. This is a litigation between Anjuman Intizamiya and Hindu devotees. Apart from that, I want to ask and say very, very carefully and with lot of sense of responsibility, there is no order from the Supreme Court or the High Court or the District Court Varanasi restraining anyone from speaking on the issue. This issue is in the public domain. Everyone is seeing in the country the pictures which are being played by various television channels as well as your channels, and we are debating upon those pictures and we are forming an opinion. Can someone restrict anyone from forming an opinion? This Western Wall, if I am having a view that this Western Wall, or a Chief Minister of State is having a view that this Western Wall is a ruins of a Hindu temple, what's wrong in it? He can have his own view, but ultimately the law will take its own course and the matter will be settled before the court of law. And under section 89 of the CPC, as a politician and as a head of the state, every endeavor can be made to settle the matter before the final verdict. It happened in Ram Mandir case in 2010. It happened before the Supreme Court in 2019, where all the legislators had taken active part in settling the dispute.
Okay, but the important point here, of course, is that this needs to be settled in court, even though what the UP Chief Minister has said, has set the political agenda, and that's why you're seeing all these reactions. Vishnuji, my third question to you is, we've seen Yogi Adityanath refer to very specific symbols like the Trishul inside the complex, which is something you are very familiar with. You have submitted details, about this to court. We've seen very specific Hindu imagery, like the Trishul, what could be, claimed to be the faces of deities, etc. You've submitted all of this in court. What can you tell us about these symbols? Because this is precisely what is under dispute right now and will be the subject of a survey.
See, the most important evidence in the so-called structure which is called a Gyanvapi mosque is the name itself. There is no name called Gyanvapi under any Islamic literature. Point number one. Point number two, the second best piece of evidence is the Western Wall. Western Wall is not constructed by Aurangzeb. I am today saying on your channel with lot of sense of authority. And when the ASI survey will happen on the Western Wall, it will prove to hilt that this Western Wall is prior in time than 1669. Then the third most important piece of evidence is the three shikars of Hindu Mandir, which are beneath the central dome, then beneath all three domes. Then apart from that, the pillars on which the so-called mosque is standing, that pillars are pillars of Hindu temple. The bells are there existing at the site in question. The Trishul is there, swastik is there, defaced idols are there, mutilated idols are there, Sanskrit shloks are there, swastik chins are there, number of signs are there. Apart from that, shivling is there in the Vazu tank, and there is still a way which is going beneath the central dome to go down, and in the basement that inquiry and investigation has to be made. So that so-called structure is full of signs and symbols which shows and demonstrates that this is not a Islamic architecture, this is not a structure which is built by Aurangzeb, and therefore we are asking for Archaeological Survey of India to survey that entire area and submit its report before the Honorable Court.
So that survey, Vishnuji, is on hold till August the 2nd. Are you hopeful of a favourable order from the Allahabad High Court? Yes. What are you doing in the interim? And also give us a sense of what that survey will actually look like.
See, the survey which is going to happen which is sub judice before the Honorable Allahabad High Court. The verdict is going to be delivered on 3rd of August. And as a litigator, as a lawyer representing one side, I believe and I feel that we have been able to convince the court, and the Honorable Court will give a judgment in our favor, thereby directing the Archaeological Survey of India to conduct a survey over the premises in question. And if such an order is passed, I feel and I believe the Archaeological Survey of India has also submitted an affidavit before the Honorable Court saying that we will not damage or destroy the structure, and without damaging or destroying the structure, this entire survey will be done. Archaeological Survey of India is the premier institution of the country, which is known for protecting and preserving a monument. It is never known for destroying or damaging any structure. So these are the contents of the affidavit which has been filed by the Archaeological Survey of India, and I feel that when this survey will happen, there are a lot of modern techniques which will be used by the Archaeological Survey of India. For example, the ground penetrating radar, there will be dating methods, relative dating methods. Apart from that, there will be other modern techniques including the satellite, and then imagery will be done, measurement will be done, mapping will be done, and then Archaeological Survey of India will ultimately submit a report.
Do you think that this entire issue can be settled amicably, or do you think it's going to take a very, very long time?
See, there can be amicable settlement, but the issue is this, that there has to be a proposal, and the proposal has to be I am very, very categorical on your channel. The proposal has to be this, that the Anjuman Intizamiya has to give us peaceful possession of that property in question. Very, very peaceful possession they have to give. If they do not give us peaceful possession, then we are fighting our case before the courts of law, and we will get a verdict from the Honorable District Court Varanasi saying that we have right to worship there, and the title and possession of this entire area, Khasra number 9130, belongs to Hindu Paksh.
But is there any possibility of that, Vishnuji? I mean, very practically speaking, because even the Chief Minister in his interview has said, I feel there should be a proposal from the Muslim society that there has been a historical mistake and we need a solution. That is precisely what is under dispute. You know, why would anyone come out and say, let's have a peaceful solution?
See, if someone wants to have a peaceful solution and someone wants to say that, all right, look here, we have committed a mistake in the past and we are not able to prove our case in the courts of law, so it's better than facing a verdict from the court if they leave the premises, and then it will give a good message of brotherhood between the two communities. That will be a welcome step. But if that is not going to happen, definitely we are fighting our case before the Varanasi Civil Court, before the High Court, before the Supreme Court, and we will prove to the hilt. I am telling you again with greatest sense of responsibility, we will prove to the hilt that this structure is not built by Aurangzeb in 1669.
Vishnu Shankar Jain, thank you very much for speaking to India Today on this issue. It's an emotive issue. It's one that goes to the heart of, many people's sentiments as well on both sides. So we'll keep a close track of this situation. We will only report the facts on this case. The Chief Minister of UP, no less, has weighed in on it. He is not a litigant. He is not a party to this entire thing. But his word most definitely counts in the context of what's happening in Uttar Pradesh. Vishnu Shankar Jain, thank you very much for speaking to India Today. And like I said, the Allahabad High Court will be pronouncing its verdict concerning the Archaeological Survey of India survey at the Gyanvapi complex on August the 3rd. Here's a complete detailed report now on the Gyanvapi issue itself. Here's an explainer of where things are at up until this point.
So in the Gyanvapi mosque, this is the Wuzu Khana area where the court-appointed commissioners came first to survey. You see this water, this is the Wuzu Khana where the Muslim devotees wash their hands and feet and then they head out for prayers. Now the court-appointed commissioners asked the water that you see here to be emptied out to find out what is exactly underneath. And then when the water started to be emptied out, the details emerged. What you saw here were these stairs leading down as I walked down this area, and a well. Now, of course, the questions were, what is this well? What is in it? All of those questions were asked by the court-appointed commissioners, but this was only after the water was emptied out. What did the commissioners find out? So this well on your screens is exactly right now the flashpoint that it has become. So what is in this well? When the court-appointed commissioners came, they noticed in what appeared to be something inside the well. Now the Hindu side is convinced that this is exactly the shivling representative of Lord Shiva. The Muslim side has objected to it and said this is a fountain that is used for the wuzu khana. Now as you look closely as what is underneath there, the court-appointed commissioners asked, what are these lines that you see on top of what the Hindu side claims is a shivling? Now, the Muslim side said, and those present at the premises, that these cuts are used for the fountain and eventually for the wuzu khana. The commissioners said then they decided to use a stick or an instrument to dig through these cuts to find out what is the source of the water and where is it for the fountain. Now it just went through few inches. They could not exactly locate the source of the water, to which the Muslim side replied and said that it is an old fountain, may not be in use right now, but it is a reason that it is used for that. Now, of course, this precisely has become a flashpoint at this point between the two sides. Now, interestingly, there are demands that underneath this floor as well, there's another floor. There are hidden vaults and they need to be explored as well. That well will only happen only after a further survey and if the court really gives an order for it. As of now, this area around me is sealed, but it's a hot, heated debate that is now going on for days and clearly will likely continue. And remember, whether it is the AIMIM or it is the BJP, both sides currently at loggerheads over this big issue of the country. And with this Gyanvapi premises, there are demands from across the country asking for various temples now to be acknowledged that were demolished, according to them, to build a mosque.
That's it on India First. Thanks so much for watching. See you at the same time tomorrow. Business Today with Abha Bakaya comes up next.
In politics, everyone has an opinion. But I have the data. Whose stock is rising? Whose graph is falling? Track India's political stock exchange. Unmatched, unmissable data analytics. The only show on News TV where numbers do the talking. India's most credible poll tracker. The political stock exchange with Rahul Kamal only on India Today. Start by talking to you, Nick Clegg, about artificial intelligence and the manner in which it is capturing global imagination. And the biggest question of them all, who should regulate artificial intelligence? At Meta, sitting where you are in your global perch, how are you looking at this key question?
The first thing to say is AI is not new. It's been around for decades. There's a lot of hype at the moment around something called generative AI. Do you remember when ChatGPT burst onto the scene?